Why do we love MMOs? Is it the constant grinding, searching for better equipment? Is it the exploration, the social aspects, collecting? There's so many things, and for some people, it's a culmination of all of that together. However, one thing that always feels bad when you return to a MMO is the gear grind, in my opinion. Now, there is really nothing to compare to the feeling when you get a really badass piece of gear in an MMO. However, when you have to cycle gear every, couple months because a new patch dropped, it gets a little daunting. I would assume most MMO players are full-time employees and have a lot of responsibilities outside of work as well. Don't get me wrong, when I had more free time, I would love to throw, days at trying to get the perfect trinket drop in a certain game. And you do get a very temporary feeling of satisfaction. But whenever the devs undermine you by just making the gear obsolete in a month, it is just discouraging. If you're anything like me, most of the MMOs you've played have been vertical progressions. There's not a lot of horizontal options out there, but Guild Wars 2 is one of the horizontal options. Probably the MMOs outside of Guild Wars that I can recall that have good horizontal systems are Old School RuneScape and Final Fantasy XI. I can't speak a lot on Final Fantasy XI. My time with it is very limited, but to put it briefly, how I was explained the situation is there are pieces of gear you can get at like level 20 in that game that are going to be relevant to you until you stop playing, basically. And like I said, limited knowledge here, but from my understanding, this is because some of the equipment would affect stuff like, movement and your other abilities. It would do more than just give you stats. As for old school RuneScape, I can speak a little more confidently on it. In OSRS, the gear is very situational. Then there's almost always going to be something that fits your needs. Whether your restrictions be how much the stuff weighs, how cheap it is, there's almost always an option, and you're never put at a huge disadvantage. The Barros armor in old school is over 15 years old, and people still chase after it. The different weapons have different special attacks, which you might need depending on what content you want to do. And whenever they add new content into the game, it usually is something for the mid level player. They rarely are adding stuff that only the in game players can do. And when you level up in RuneScape, you aren't strictly leveling, like you aren't getting more power. It's about unlocking, more parts of the map, different skills unlock a variety of things such as guilds and teleports and all sorts of things to make your time in Gillinor better. And that brings us to Guild Wars 2, which I'm sure you all know has horizontal progression. And that reminds me a lot of Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet. You start off with basically your whole toolkit. You just have to find the weapons. And the weapons are easy to access, and you can get a full end game kit on the auction house. And once you are in your end game gear, there is still room to progress. You can get better stuff, but you're not throwing stuff away really. Once you're there, once you get into your like ascended gear or exotic gear, you're sitting pretty. You can, from my understanding, there isn't much that you cannot do with that stuff, but there's room for improvement if you want it. Now, I'm sure there's some whacked out content that me being a new player, I have no idea about, and someone will probably correct me in the comments like, "Oh my gosh, you need a full set of such and such to do this raid or whatever." But as my impressions going in, that does not seem to be the case. But if there is, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, we don't want new players running into the hardest content immediately. Now, why do I think this is the healthier future for MMOs? It allows you to experience other games. It allows you to step away from the game and visit with your family or friends. And when you come back to the game, you don't feel like you've absolutely fucked yourself. And then like the MMOs that do it, I'm looking at you, World of Warcraft. You know, you're constantly cycling gear. When someone comes back to gear up, you just make them do the most boring content in the world to get relevant again. It sucks. But that being said, I think there are merits to both styles. I like them both, but as a like something for me to enjoy long term, Guild Wars 2 is not, there's no subscription fee. If you want to play all the content, you'll have to buy expansions, but that's to be expected. But I find the relationship between dev and player much more healthy, and I hope that my assumptions and hypothesis are correct. I want to hopefully enjoy some more time in Ascalon. And thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Happy holidays.